Salve omnes, it's Magister Compton, and today we're going to get into the grammar for chapters 28 and 29. So let's get started here. We're going to break this down into two videos. The first one is going to be about fourth declension nouns, which we discussed today in class. We went through the endings, so it'll just be a review of what we did today. And then the partitive, genitive, and ablative will come after that. That'll be video number 2. That's what the assignment from Magistrula is based on. So if you would like to just watch that video, then by all means do so. This is going to review the fourth declension endings that we saw today. Okay, so when we're talking about a new declension of nouns, we have to talk about the universal rules because those will help us remember what the endings are. We saw today, we use those rules to, in essence, create the declension, and it worked perfectly. So knowing these rules is going to really help you remember the endings. So what do we know? We know the nominative and genitive singular is always given when you get the vocab. We know the dative singular ends in long I once you get to third declension and beyond. Typically, it's also going to have the dominant vowel. Third can't do it because there's too many weird stems to combine with, but fourth and fifth have no problem. The accusative singular is going to end in something plus M, and that something in all these cases will be the dominant vowel. Likewise, the ablative singular will be that dominant vowel, but with a long mark over it. The accusative plural will be that dominant vowel plus S, and that dominant vowel will take a long sound. The nominative plural will match the accusative plural in third declension and beyond. The genitive plural is going to be the dominant vowel paired with maybe with an extra R as well, like aurum and orum do. And then the dative and ablative plural will match, and they'll use one of these endings, is, ibus, or abus. Typically, once you've used a ending twice, then you move on to the next one. So we've used is twice in the first and the second declensions, and we've only used ibus once in the third declension. So we're still due to use ibus one more time. So let's see how that's going to actually turn into the fourth declension endings. So here's an example noun, casus, casus, which is masculine, as most fourth declension nouns will be. A few feminines will sneak in. You saw domus on the vocab list. The word manus, which we had in our body parts, is also feminine, and that means a hand. Sometimes manus will also be used to mean a band or a group, like manus militum, a band of soldiers. But most fourths will be masculine, like casus is, and casus means a misfortune or downfall. The dominant vowel is U. We can see it here in the nominative singular casus and the genitive casus. So that means we're going to see a lot of U's when we see this chart. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like this. So the nominative is us, as again the vocab tells us. The genitive is us, as again the vocab tells us. The dative is ui, which the universal rules said should be the case. The accusative is so you see that dominant vowel paired with M. The ablative is u, which again is consistent. We've had a and o in the past, so now we have u. The nominative is us, which both looks like the accusative, also looks like the genitive singular. So that's kind of a callback to our first and second declension universal rules from earlier in Latin 1. The genitive is so there's the dominant vowel u paired with the ending, but there's no r in between them, so it's just u-u-m, The dative is ibus, as we predicted it would be. The accusative is us, because it's the dominant vowel plus s, and that dominant vowel gets a long mark. And then the ablative is matching the dative, as it's supposed to do. So this will work for any masculine or feminine fourth declension noun. If you saw the vocab slideshow already, you'll know that domus does a few funky things. For example, its ablative is domo. To say in the house is domi. So you'll see some weird stuff with that noun. But manus will do just fine with this list. And then all of your masculines, no problem. But what about the neuters? So here's an example of a neuter noun, genu, genus. This is our word for knee from our body parts list. In our vocab, we also have cornu, and there's another one, gelu, which means cold or ice. And those are really the only three neuters that really matter for fourth: genu, cornu, and gelu. So what is this going to look like with u being the nominative noun? So u, us, again, the vocab supports that. The dative is going to be u now. The accusative is going to be u. And the ablative is u. The accusative makes sense because this is a neuter noun, and our neuter rule tells us the nominative and the accusative have to match. And the ablative u makes sense because that's what it was, and the universal rule told us that's what it should be. So it's almost as if somebody thought, well, you've already got three u's, just run with it, make everything u. So the dative gets to become u also. The genitive can't be u because then it would no longer be fourth declension. So the genitive has to stay us. But all the other singular endings for genu are u. Just be aware, you're not going to encounter the dative u very often unless it was for something like, certain verbs and certain adjectives take a dative. So if it's the object of one of those, okay, yes, you'd have the dative u. But normally if you see it, it's one of these other cases, nominative, accusative, or ablative. Then you look at the plural side, and the nominative is ua. This is consistent because remember, neuter nouns in the accusative and nominative have to end in a in the plural. So we are ending in a, but we're adding that extra u sound because this is the fourth, and the fourth likes to use u. So ua, ibus, ua, ibus. The genitive, dative, and ablative didn't change, as they normally don't change. So the nominative and accusative are the only ones that really are different here, but they're different in the way all neuters are different. They're ending in a to be plural. So sometimes we'll call the fourth the u declension because pretty much everything begins with u. The exception would be the ibuses and the dative and ablative plural, but even they have a u in them, so it's still kind of a u declension. So if you see nouns with lots of u's in them, then you know you're dealing with fourth declension. And if you're asked to write a fourth declension noun, just remember you most likely are going to have to begin with u and then use one of those universal rules to help you figure out the rest. All right, so that's fourth declension. And next video, we're going to get into this next topic, the part of construction. So until then, valete omnes.